Oh, hang on.
Thank you, Joshua. And thank you for the songs as well. Yeah. Well, it's a great pleasure to be back with you all. And I don't know about you, but how do you feel about today's weather?
Yeah.
Like, does that just not feel great?
Yeah, it's nice.
I learned something very valuable recently, which was when it's cold where you are, don't travel to somewhere colder. That's dumb.
Are you talking about Buffalo?
Yeah, talking about Buffalo, yeah.
How many feet of snow?
No, it wasn't that bad snow-wise. It was just cold. It was just cold, snowing. It snowed the whole time, but it didn't really stack up. But anyhow, so don't do that. Unless somebody corrected me on that and said, unless you're going skiing somewhere. But I'm even of the mind now, no. If you're cold, don't go somewhere colder. Find heat. So thank you, everybody, for being here, and those joining us on the YouTube. I like that, the YouTube. I don't know who said that to me, but it's like a thing, the YouTube. So I was, originally, I think I had a title here that I sent to Josh, A Return to Wholeness, and then I decided I'd get really clever and make up this bigger title for it. And then I found myself in this thinking about a homecoming and what does that look like for us spiritually and individually, and even if we're on a mission of growth, raising our vibration or our consciousness, or increasing our understanding of ourselves in the world. I actually started to feel some grief, I used to think, and maybe this is true for you, I used to think that grief only happened when somebody passed away, when we lost somebody. And I've come to realize that that's absolutely not true, that we can experience grief from many things: the loss of a friendship, the loss of a job, of course, the obvious loss of a friend or a colleague or a family member, or the loss of a pet, or even just a loss of ourselves where we can't quite figure out who we are. And we have this feeling maybe of, I don't want to use the word, it's not dread, but it feels like that, where you just can't get up every day and feel life. And when we're feeling that way, it's really important that we honor that within ourselves, right? It's really important, actually, that we don't shove that off and try to build a rose garden over top of a mud pie, right? We got to get in the mud, and we have to feel those feelings and experience what we're experiencing, and really try to find, what is it? What is at the source of this? What is having me feel the way I feel? And when somebody's going through grief, there's nobody out there that can tell you it's going to be okay, right? Does that not fall on deaf ears? Oh, don't worry, it'll be fine. Oh, you'll get over this. It'll be better in 6 months or whatever, right? And that's just not the case. That's not really what we need from somebody, and it's really not how I want to be supportive of somebody anymore. Now that I've learned that, now that I've seen that, it's really, I look at it in two things. One is, allow somebody to be whatever they need to be, to experience whatever they need to experience, right? Just allow. And don't try to fix, right? There's nothing broken, so it's not like we're broken. We've just lost our spirit a little bit. We've just misplaced something, and we need to find it again. That's what it feels like more for me. Anybody, does that ring kind of true? Where it's like, yeah, I need to go off and find this thing that is missing within me, and there's no amount of buttering up that's going to really solve that, except for me getting into myself. And I came across this, I don't know where I got it from, but tear soup. Has anybody had that experience of tear soup? You know, where you're just crying
Yeah.
and the tears are just flowing and there's like a soup being made at your feet of tears. That's at least what I imagined, right? I mean, you could have a pot and maybe you could put a pot on the floor and cry into the pot or something. But I really think that tear soup is extremely important. I think I've shared with you before, maybe not, but when I went to seminary, or when I went to Unity Village to apply to become a minister, I entered a very, very dark period personally. And when I came home, when I flew home so I flew from Kansas City to Seattle, from Seattle to Vancouver, I cried the entire flight to Seattle. And fortunately, I had the window seat, and I could just kind of cuddle up and bawl into the window. But I gotta think the person sitting next to me must have just been like, what is up with this person? Like, are they on the brink of disaster? Because I just could not even console myself. And it really felt like a grief. It felt like there was a part of me that was about to be gone, that was going to go away. And I had to go through this process and so tear soup for me was very, when I heard that, it was like, oh, I could have made tear soup that day for sure, coming home. And then when I got home for about 2.5 weeks, I was miserable. So miserable. How miserable were you? That my incredible wife, who you all know is this amazing, wonderful human being, came up to me and said, and I will quote her, "Dude, if this is ministry, I'm out." Yeah, that's how bad it was. But we made it through. But the point of what I'm trying to share with you all is that we've all gone through things in our life. We've all had experiences. And we lose ourselves sometimes in those experiences. And we think we're broken maybe, or we think we're unfixable, something to that degree. And it's not the case. These are just veils. These are veils that we've hung up to try to protect ourselves as we've gone through life for when certain things have happened to us. And really, the trick of it all is to start lifting those veils, to go inward, to get real with ourselves and ask those questions. Why am I feeling this way? What is going on? And whether it's journaling or meditation, whatever it looks like, to get to the bottom of that is the gift. That's when we can literally start lifting the veils and bring ourselves to life in a new way, in a new form. Not discounting what we've experienced, not pushing down what we've gone through and discrediting it, but actually it becomes a strength for us. It becomes wisdom. I heard this once, that any ideas unprocessed are not wisdom yet. It's only when we've overcome the things that we're facing that it becomes wisdom to us. So really, the key throughout life is to overcome these things, to not bury them, but to actually face them one at a time and go through the process. And if you can align yourself with some friends, some colleagues, some people, some family that can be there with you, that aren't going to give you, just, oh, everything will be okay, but to just listen and hear you, allow you to be heard. Anybody have that feeling when you're heard? When you truly feel like you've been heard? Here's a great idea for an argument. If you're having an argument with somebody and you say something and they repeat themselves as if what you said made no difference at all, they didn't hear you. So then they'll just repeat themselves louder, and you'll repeat yourself louder, and they didn't hear you. And so this is what happens, right, in these arguments. So the moment that we can actually listen and allow somebody else to be heard and give them that credibility to be heard, where we just maybe shut up, right? Just be quiet. Man, I could have used that years ago. Right? But to be able to just listen to somebody and allow them to speak who they are, speak their truth, not fix, not correct, not do anything like that, but just allow them to be heard. And if you need somebody, then you need to find somebody that can do that. And maybe it's as simple as saying to somebody, hey, I need somebody to talk to, and all I need you to do is listen. I'm not looking for advice. I'm not looking for any input. I just want to be heard. That is such a gift we can give ourselves. So some of these things look like scars on us, right? And we want to think of this as there's power in a healed scar. It's actually telling us that we've overcome something. And so we should carry our scars with pride, right? That we've gone through some stuff. We've gone through some battles. We've lived through some things that have allowed us to be here, to be who we are, and to stand proud in front of other people for who we are. That's a gift. Again, I don't know if it's like this for you, but it's really easy for me to look at complications as I've done something wrong, and I'm a bad person for doing that thing. Anybody feel that way? We blame ourselves for things. As soon as something goes wrong, it's like, oh, I must have done something wrong. And we throw it on ourselves. And really what we want to do in those moments is we actually want to allow ourselves to make mistakes, first of all, but to allow ourselves the freedom to heal that mistake, to correct that wrong, if that's the case, and allow ourselves to heal that scar, because that becomes a learned moment. That becomes something we can carry forward into our lives. We can bring all of these things, of course, into prayer and meditation, which for me has been a great gift at moving through challenges, at moving through problems in life. So these scars aren't prisons, they're actually portals. They're evidence that you have gone through something, out the other side, build wisdom from it. The spirit is the space in which the experience happened, right? So our spirit, if you think of it this way, our spirit is always with us, always ready to serve at a moment's notice. And all we need to do is go within and call upon that spirit. It's right there all the time. It's never left us. I think that is a Course in Miracles. Is that not correct? The Holy Spirit is with us, Leanne? Yeah, always. So in A Course in Miracles, that's what they teach, is that the Holy Spirit is always indwelling within us, ready to be activated, ready to serve. That Christ's light is always there. I think of that even when I had decided to suddenly investigate unity. I had shut out all spirituality from my life until I started reading A Course in Miracles. And it's sort of like I let the door open just a little tiny bit. Until then it had been shut, but I kind of went, wait a second, what's in here, I wonder? And as soon as I opened up that crack, whoosh, ready to serve, ready to invite me into what could possibly be next for my life. That's something we all have and we can count on within ourselves. The world is loud right now. Anybody feel that? Yeah. It's yelling and screaming at us. And at the same time, there's a lot of light in the world. Have you noticed that too? There's a lot of light being shone. There's a lot of light workers coming out. There's all sorts of things happening in the realm of spirituality that is really giving us support and giving us the ability to overcome that loudness that's happening in the world. So when it gets loud, what do you think we need to do? Some would say get louder. I say, get quiet. When the world is getting loud, we need to get quiet. I still can't help but think of the monks walking down a road in silence. It's not a lot of volume going on there, but man, did they not speak loudly in that silence, in that quiet? Right? That's what we, I believe, as truth seekers need to count on more than ever, is the quiet time. The time to reflect, the time to go within and give ourselves strength of spirit, give ourselves wisdom of spirit, give ourselves the tools we're going to need to stand in the world when we're called upon to stand for truth. That's when we need to be loud, is in our stand. And the way we get ourselves to that place is through all the work we do in the silence and building up ourselves so that we can be that in that time. So we want to replace these simple labels with truths. I am peace, I am love, I am life. Simple things that we can all carry within ourselves. So with that in mind, I'd like to take a few moments to spend some time in quiet reflection together.